The Pittsburgh Steelers finished the 2023 regular season with a 10-7 record and made the playoffs for the third time in 4 years. And for the third time in 4 years, they lost in the wild card round. The 2023 regular season was full of ups and downs for the Steelers as they lost by 23 points on opening day to the San Francisco 49ers, yet would go on to win 4 of their next 5 games, including a win over the division rival Ravens. They would enter a Week 13 game against the Arizona Cardinals with a 7-4 record, before dropping 2 games to the Cardinals and Patriots in a span of 5 days to become the first above 500 team in NFL history to lose to 2-win teams that late in the year. They would lose against the Colts in Week 15 to drop to 7-7, and with the winning season streak in jeopardy entering the final 3 games of the year, you guessed it, they would win the final 3 games to finish 10-7 before losing to Buffalo in the wild card round. Some teams would consider this season a success, but for the Steelers and their fan base, well, they aren't satisfied with a 14-point road loss in the first round of the playoffs. They aren't satisfied with not winning a playoff game in nearly a decade. They aren't satisfied with finishing 28th in points per game, and the Steelers enter the 2024 offseason with a big problem on their hands. What do they do moving forward? Well, we're going to break it down in today's video. Now let's begin. We are starting today's video by discussing what will be the main conversation for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, and that's what they should do at the quarterback position. Some Steelers fans will look at what Mason Rudolph did in his 3 starts with the team and say Mason should start in 2024. Others side with Kenny Pickett, who will be entering his 3rd NFL season next year, despite throwing just 13 touchdowns in his first 2 years. Not each season, by the way, but 13 total touchdowns. There's also a group of Steelers fans that think Kenny should be given a real chance under a good offensive coordinator and point to Matt Canada holding Kenny back and use that as a reason to give Kenny another shot and reason to believe he should be the starter moving forward. There's a lot that goes into this, and we will pull back each layer, but one of the first things regarding this that I want to be clear regarding Kenny Pickett is, yes, Matt Canada held him in the offense back. There was a reason he was fired midway through the 2023 season, but, and I want this to be clear as well, there's times during Steelers games where Kenny flat out misses plays he shouldn't. Whether that offensive coordinator is Matt Canada or if Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan were the offensive play callers, that doesn't change Kenny missing throws. That also doesn't change Kenny being 37th in completion percentage out of 45 eligible quarterbacks behind guys like Sam Howell, Josh Dobbs, and Easton Stick, as Kenny completed just 62% of his passes in 2023. Kenny threw an interception against the Browns on a 3rd and 3 early in the game that was one of the uglier interceptions you'll see at the NFL level. Kenny predetermines that he'll throw the ball to George Pickens, which I don't mind as George Pickens is a very good receiver, but you can see from the front angle that as soon as Kenny catches the ball, he doesn't look to see what coverage Cleveland is in at all. They called a cover 1 robber with Grant Delpit playing the robber role, and all Delpit does here is follow Kenny's eyes. He, like Kenny, knows it's 3rd and 3 and knows this ball will probably be out quick. And it was. The ignorance to not even look to see what type of coverage is not a good look, and yes, you can say Matt Canada could have designed the play to have someone go in motion pre-snap to help Kenny out with that, but this was a bad play by Kenny and there's no way around it. This was the 3rd play of the game and it gave Cleveland the ball in Pittsburgh's red zone. I think there's this belief that because Kenny hasn't played a full season and that Matt Canada was not a good play caller, that Kenny will magically get better and become a guy who will throw for 4,500 yards and 26 or 27 touchdowns in a season in one offseason. While in theory that could happen, I don't think it will, and not only that, but as crazy as this is going to sound, Mason Rudolph will be a hot commodity this offseason as a free agent. Because of this, this will only complicate what the Steelers' plans are this offseason, because Mason can very easily go make more money somewhere else. He had a 1-year deal worth a little over $1 million for the 2023 season, but with how many backup quarterbacks played throughout the 2023 season, not just for Pittsburgh, but for everybody, teams are going to react to this in a big way, and Mason could go sign a big contract somewhere else. Big in the grand scheme of things, meaning a 1 or 2 year deal worth $6 or $7 million per year, which would be more than he's earned in his entire career. The cumulative amount, that is. Per Spotrac, Mason has career earnings of just under $10 million, and due to the demand the backup quarterback position will have this offseason, well, this will be Mason's best opportunity to cash in, considering how his season ended. I think this plays into why the Steelers have a problem, because they're not in the best cap situation, and per Spotrac, they have the 25th most available cap space entering the offseason and are $6.7 million over the cap. The NFL playoffs are heating up, and there's 4 teams remaining with one goal in mind, and only 2 of these teams will make it to Las Vegas in a few short weeks. Now, with all eyes on the prize, I have teamed up with DraftKings, an official partner of the NFL, to get you in on the action. Right now, new customers who bet just $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Yes, instantly. You can download the DraftKings app now and sign up using my promo code analysis for your shot at the crown. Now, if you've already signed up for DraftKings like me, you can get a no sweat bet. Get a bonus bet back if your same game parlay does not hit. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the chance to win cash prizes. But for those where sports betting is available in your state, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly using my promo code analysis. Once again, that's promo code analysis, and a big thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. The good news for them is they can save $10 million by cutting Allen Robinson to have money to work with, and they can also cut Chukwuma Okorafor and save $8.3 million by cutting him. Very quickly, that puts them at $12 million on the positive side, and if or when they cut Patrick Peterson, that will save them an additional $6.8 million. I'm sure they could restructure contracts to free up even more, but the big question for them will be, do they want to pay Mason whatever money he will ask for this offseason, or go a different route entirely and try to trade for a quarterback who is almost certainly going to get traded this offseason, and that's Bears quarterback Justin Fields. Justin's trade value is roughly going to be around a second-round pick, and with the frustrating play of Kenny Pickett at times, there has been discussion around bringing in Fields, who, as we know, can also bring a dual-threat element to the Steelers, Falcons, or wherever he gets traded. There's also another option that has been discussed for the Steelers, and that's to bring in quarterback Kirk Cousins, who is also a free agent. There's been 4 main options that have been discussed for the Steelers entering the 2024 regular season, and those of course are Kenny, Mason, Justin Fields, and Kirk. Nobody would disagree that Kirk would have the highest floor out of any of these players in 2024, but that would cost a pretty penny, and not only would it cost a pretty penny, but there would have to be a lot of restructures, and like we said, Allen Robinson, Okorafor, and Pat Pete will all be shown the door. Even if the Steelers opt to go with Kirk Cousins, assuming Kirk would even sign there in the first place, because Minnesota would be in the running and Atlanta would be in the running too for Kirk, the Steelers run into a problem that quite literally everybody in the rest of the AFC is too, and that's how do you get to the top? Patrick Mahomes will, of course, be waiting there, but before they would even get to that point, they need to win a playoff game, which, like we said in the intro, hasn't happened since the 2016 season. Joe Burrow will be back in 2024, and the Ravens haven't had the success they've had this year by accident, and they too will be back. I'm sure Steelers fans are thinking about this, so I will go ahead and address this. Yes, the Steelers swept both the Bengals and Ravens this year and went 5-1 in the division. One of the Ravens games were against Lamar Jackson in a game where Ravens receivers were credited with dropping 7 passes in one game alone. The other Ravens game was against their entire second team, and the Steelers narrowly won with the score of 17-10. Having said this, if these teams met in January with the season on the line, despite the sweep, I would take Baltimore in a do-or-die game. Both of the Steelers' wins over the Bengals were against Jake Browning, though I do want to credit the Steelers for putting up 34 points in the second game against Cincinnati. This was the game George Pickens had 195 receiving yards on just 4 receptions. But like we said with the Ravens, with a healthy Bengals team, I would take Joe Burrow and the Bengals over the Steelers with the season on the line. One area I do want to credit the Steelers in a big way is their ability to get after the quarterback. Obviously, everyone thinks of TJ Watt, who could very easily be a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner after the 19-sack, 4 forced fumble season he just had, but it's not just TJ. Alex Highsmith has developed into a very good player, and despite having 7 sacks compared to the 14.5 he had in 2022, he had more pressures in 2023, as he had 69 compared to the 55 he had in 2022, on 25 less pass rushing snaps, which was a very nice improvement for the 4th-year player. But it's not just the exterior, and despite the quarterback problems the Steelers have, I think Omar Khan has done a nice job of filling out the roster, and I thought they got one of the bigger steals in the 2023 draft with the big fella Keanu Benton. No pun intended on the bigger steals part either. At just 22 years old, Benton had 22 pressures on 270 pass rushing snaps, and I think he is a big candidate to break out next year and to have a 40-plus pressure year and have 5 or 6 sacks. As much as I love the Steelers' pass rush, and Minka in the back end too for that matter, aside from quarterback, corner is going to be a position the Steelers have to address this offseason, and there's no way around it. Yes, Joey Porter had his fair share of penalties called on him during his rookie season, but what rookie corner doesn't get penalties called on them? Transitioning from corner in college to the NFL level is without a doubt the hardest position to translate to, aside from quarterback. So not only are the Steelers in a tough position moving forward at the quarterback position, but they're arguably in an even tougher position at the cornerback position, because you don't just need 2 corners in today's NFL. With how physical the game is and with how demanding a singular NFL season is on a player's body, it's almost a miracle in itself if you have your 2 starting corners, not even including your slot corner, from training camp to make it all 17 games from July through the 2nd week of January. Having said that, whenever we do mock drafts on the channel, which is coming up soon by the way, we will certainly mock corner to the Steelers throughout the draft process. But aside from Joey Porter Jr. and potentially a first-round corner, they're going to need a lot of depth at the position heading into 2024, as Levi Wallace was not the answer for them this past year, and per PFF, he was credited for allowing 7 touchdowns in 2023, and even had 2 games where he allowed 2 touchdowns by himself. Acquiring corners is very tricky in today's NFL, and no NFL team will say they have enough corners, ever. When you sit down and think about it, there's a reason why corners are so few and far between. If you are that fast and that agile as a 22 or 23-year-old draft prospect to cover the guys on the offensive side of the ball, chances are you were a receiver at one point, and it's also a business decision. Would you rather try and have a longer career as a receiver and make the highlight plays, or would you rather potentially end up on a poster guarding one of those guys like a Jamar Chase who the Steelers play twice a season? That's a big reason why there's more receivers than there are corners, and not only that, but we have discussed this on the channel before, a corner's shelf life is not long. It's not long before they lose their physical peak, and when you factor that in with offensive masterminds that spend 40 or 50 hours every week, every offseason looking for a chink in the armor, there's a reason that corners especially fall off a cliff faster than other positions. How all of this goes into the 2024 Steelers and every other team for that matter is your best bet is signing as many corners as you can, reasonably of course, and hope they last because the position is set up to fail in today's NFL. On this screen is a list of corners the Steelers could sign this offseason, but if TJ, Alex, and Keanu do not get home more often than not next year, I have concerns with the Steelers' defense when it matters most. Since the start of the 2021 season, the Steelers are 0-12 when they allow 30 or more points. I'm not going to sit here and act like they should be 9-3 or anything like that, but what worries me with the Steelers moving forward is if they do not upgrade the quarterback position and solely rely on Kenny entering 2024, they are destined to fail and that we will be having the same exact conversation 1 year from now. This all goes back to the title of today's video as to why the Pittsburgh Steelers have a big problem, because I very much think this team is slightly above average, and their winning records would show exactly that, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean a damn thing. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 33% of people watching are subscribed, and it helps the channel tremendously. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.